Hey guys, this is Marshall. Today we are going to discuss a few chapters in the book What Chinese Want, written by Tom Doctoroff. He is a CEO and director of J. Walter Thompson. We are going to discuss in particular China and the world, some of their kind of how they view themselves and how they view themselves in comparison to the rest of the world. Brief introduction. Sun Tzu. The enlightened ruler is heedful and the good general full of caution. That really plays into who they are in Hofstede's six Ds model. They are pragmatic and they are strategic. Let's talk about some of their icons first. Those are the three big ones that the book mentioned. Of course, Bruce Lee, who is all over the dorm room walls of many young males, and Yao Ming, who some of you sports fans will remember from a few years ago, came into the NBA. Now he's a very respected businessman in China. And then right next to him we have Zhang Yimou. He's a decorated film director. He's crossed the ocean and gained acclaim in both the U.S. and China. They really like Yao Ming because he didn't have, well, he was 7 feet tall, but he was more resourceful than a lot of his opponents. And Bruce Lee was kind of the same way. He had an understated masculinity about him. Those are traits and values that the Chinese respect. Let's talk about some of their more common ones. Mulan is not included, but in a recent Forbes list, they did include Cao Ruwei. He's the Sina CEO. He's big in the there he is, bottom middle. He's big in the development of the internet in China. In the middle we have Zhang Ping. He's the legal scholar who wrote much of China's civil code. And then up top we have, I imagine, Zhu Zhaoshuang, People's Bank of China governor. Then over to the right we have a couple mentioned by one of China's state sites, Jackie Chan, who's lately developed movies in China itself, and then Fan Bingbing, the actress and pretty much perfect image of Chinese feminism. This is Hofstede's China. You can see high power distance, high collectivism, low individualism, moderate to high masculinity, low uncertainty avoidance, extremely high in terms of pragmatism, and low in indulgence. So let's see what that means. So it's that type of collectivism that leads companies like Procter & Gamble and Unilever to release products on the strength of their corporate brand rather than to create smaller brands. The company is, I guess we'll go to the next slide and talk about what the country is. They're pragmatic, so some things can't be explained. They're okay with that. Collectivist, family over the individual. They are okay trusting the big companies rather than assigning certain traits to smaller companies. Ethnocentric isolation. They believe they're the cultural center of the world. U.S. kind of does that too. Cyclical destiny, season for everything. Things repeat itself. History repeats itself. High power distance. They kind of, to a certain degree, they accept that there's judicial corruption. It's more about who you know than what you know in some circumstances, and some people are born into that type of life and can pretty much get away with anything. Lately, they had the Arab Spring, and it brought into question the roles of the common man versus central government. In China, they're more likely to tolerate the central government and accept it for what it can provide. There are ongoing concerns that were highlighted: human rights, corruption, as we just mentioned, and civility. Civility, by that I mean how the Japanese people in government handled the earthquake. The Japanese bonded together, and a lot of the Chinese wonder if they could do that too if natural disaster struck them. There's Doctoroff went on to talk about China and Obama. They believe Obama's good for America. In the first couple of years, they thought he was pretty cool, and then they realized he was shrewd and strategic in how he handled the Osama bin Laden assassination. They also feel that Obama understands China's unique history. In 2013, there was actually a historic summit between Obama and President Xi Jinping in California. Some I guess analysts called it the most important meeting between the two heads of state since I believe it was Nixon's meeting with the president with China's leader several decades ago. Dr. Off then had a chapter about China's Olympics. He assigned a lot of meaning to the Olympics. I didn't assign it that much meaning, but he said it was huge for China to create a message, send that message to their own people, and then also have a message for the world that they had kind of arrived on the global stage as a power to be reckoned with. And you can see a torchbearer just hanging out there, some traditional Chinese dancers or something, and more the opening ceremony. So it was very lavish. Dr. Off kind of compared it to the World's Fair of 120 years ago. So I don't know if it was that big. I think Olympics are kind of ephemeral nowadays. You look at what just happened in Sochi. But he said it was important for the Chinese people. I'm sure when it was happening it was. So Dr. Off went on to talk about Sino relations. He believes India and China have a really bright future. They complement each other well. They play to each other's strengths. Whereas China is full of technocrats, India has the strategy and the managerial experience that they can invest in each other and kind of bring each other to the top. They're right there, so it's easy. All the groundwork is laid for more economic development between the two. India and Japan isn't quite as peaceful. They recently, last couple of years, they've had some property disagreements, some military disagreements, but there's a kind of a mutual respect there. But they don't really, but they are also kind of fundamentally different. And then or China and the U.S. they are, I guess, necessary bedfellows. China, going back to the pragmatism of China and the lack of really any overarching belief system, they will do what they believe is best for them. They're not going to upset the global community, but they also want to be reckoned with as a as a current superpower, potentially one of the top two in a bipolar world here shortly. So things are stable between China and the U.S. They probably have not ever been better, and it benefits both countries. And now for our discussion question. So economically and militarily, the world is shifting from the post-Soviet unipolar world in which the United States acts unilaterally to a bipolar or multipolar world in which the U.S. must cooperate with a superpower of equal or more weight, China. Many scholars believe India could also potentially join the discussion as well. As China comes closer to meeting or surpassing the United States in terms of economic power, and given its collectivist culture that rarely produces iconic figures or brands, will it ever rival the U.S. in terms of cultural exports to the rest of the world? If this change does occur, when will it occur and why? So tell me in the next few years when you see it happening and what's serving the impetus for it. And if China will not eventually rival the U.S. in these terms, why not? Thanks for watching. Please post any questions you have below, and I'd be happy to get back with you and discuss this more.